Files here again. I'm going to show you how to take that file that you had that I showed you in the last video from the MakerBot program and put it on the 3D printer. I just want to make one note before I start. On the last video I made the file to be sent to the printer upside down. Make sure your bottom base is flat, or the bigger base is flat with the printer base, or the one you want to basically print with the least amount of support material. You wouldn't want to print this upside down like I did in the last video, because that would waste support material building this layer up here when you could just put it down there and not use any support material. So that's that. Now I saved the file on a USB. This video is primarily for empowered people because they're the ones who are going to be using these two printers right here, the MakerBot Replicator 2s. So you're probably going to either have to save it on an SD card, and over here, if you don't have an SD card port in your printer, we have one of these USB SD card converters that you can put an SD card in. So coming back here, excuse the video quality. So you're either going to put it on the SD card, or you can come over to this computer. Again, this video is for empowered people mostly because they're the ones using the Rep 2s. You can go to this computer and download your SDL from online and put it on this computer. And then you can basically print directly to the printers. If you look here on devices, it has Replicator 2, which is one of these that's plugged in, and then if I plug the other one in, it would say 2 printers, so you can print directly from the computer to the printer. But for all the other people, move it to an SD card. And then, so here's the steps on how to load the printer. You're going to take the SD card and you're going to load it into this slot first. Some important things to go about. So here is a spool of filament. If you've never seen a spool of filament before, this is what it looks like. Filament comes in this thread type fashion. You're going to basically thread that spool through this plastic guide here. What this does is allow it to, when it's printing, for the spool or the plastic not to like snap. And you're going to load this spool over here onto this kind of carrying carriage that will allow it, when it prints out, to roll as filament is ticking out. I think the best way to do this is to have this come, hold on one second. I think I'm going to swap this over and put it on the other side. Let's see here. Sorry about this, hard to do it with the camera. And you're going to feed this end of the spool through this white cap. Excuse me for 1 second as I do it. Alright, so the filament is now fed through, and you're going to insert it in there, but don't directly insert it into this hole right here yet. First of all, forgot to show this. The on and off buttons for the Replicator 2s are in the bottom right over here. So that's the on and off button. This gets connected to the computer if you're printing from the computer, and this is just the power cord. So before you put that spool into this slot, you're going to come down to this menu, which I'll explain a few things. This one, I guess the screen is not fully great. See if I can get something to put this on so it's not bouncing up and down. Alright, so controlling the buttons in the menu, these are the basic menu items that you have to work with. Build from SD card. You press to access the files in your SD card up there, and you can print directly from there. Now, preheat is to heat up the printer, because the printer has to heat up in order to heat up the filament. Utilities I'll get to last. Info and settings you don't have to worry about. And you just use this kind of arrow keys here and this middle button to select different things. On utilities, the main thing you're going to be using is change filament, and that's about it. So changing filament, there might already be filament in the printer, and if there isn't, you have to load it. Sorry, this is going a little faster. So you're going to press change filament, and then you're going to press load. And what it's going to do is it's going to heat up the printer. So now it's ready. Usually it will like say this degrees is heating up, and you have to wait until it says I'm ready, pull the guide tube off and push the filament through. So you're going to gently take this end of the filament, and you'll feel it pull because there's a motor that's pulling it, and you're gonna push it through. One thing I forgot to mention for the empowered people with the Replicator 2s is when you're loading the filament into the top there, you want to cut the filament end, see if I can refocus there, at an angle with the scissors. So you want to have it so that the end is a little bit sharp there. And you'll feel it pull slightly as you're pushing it through, and then it should pull by itself. You can't really see it because it's one color, but on the bottom here you'll start seeing it come out, and once it comes out, that means it's extruding. And then you can go on the menu here and press the middle button M, press M again, and it's done. Now if you wanted to change the filament, you would press unload, it would heat up, do the same process, and then you would unload and gently pull out the filament from there, making sure to wait until it says unload the filament. So now the filament is loaded. You have extra filament here. Be careful, this tip here is really hot, so you can pull that off. And then what you do on the menu here is you go to build from SD, and in my case the wheel hub, I'm going to select it, and now you will see the printer base moving into a position to where it will print. I'm going to stop the video. Well, actually, you'll see how it's printing first. It's basically going to make that raft layer that I showed you in the other video on the bottom. See if I can get a good view of this. So right now it's heating up, and then it will print a raft out on this layer, and it will kind of move up layer by layer as it's printing. Some things to keep in mind, because sometimes these fail. If you don't see, you should watch the printer for the first like 5 to 10 minutes as it starts printing. Make sure that filament is actually coming out and that you see it on the actual printer base. If you don't, and you hear like a scratching noise or something, you're gonna need to restart the print, or contact me or Professor Arce to help you out. So I don't know if you can really see, but it's printing out a circular surface now for my wheel hub for the raft. Let's see if I can get a good angle there. So it's printing out the raft now, and it's going to go layer by layer up until it prints the whole thing. So we're back, and the print job has finished printing. It actually failed. If you look, the printer, it was supposed to be straight up, and it kind of got dislodged a bit. So that's just kind of some of the difficulties that come with 3D printers. But to show you how to take it off, this is really important. This is for the Replicator 2, but it's applicable on the other printer as well. You're going to use one of two tools. You're either going to use this tool, it's kind of like a paint scraper, or you're going to use this tool on top here. So I'm going to use this tool just for practical purposes. You'll notice that it's very thin at one end. So what you're going to do, or at both ends it's very thin, is you're going to kind of carefully try to lodge this underneath the raft. And sometimes it's hard. So you kind of got to push and play around with it. And you kind of just got to go around. Sometimes there's like a loose end. It's able to get it out easier. Alright, so that kind of will provide enough space for the knife to come in. And alright, now you can kind of pull it out, and you'll see there's a raft here. Be careful with what I just did. So I peeled some of the blue tape, so try to be really gentle. And as far as this raft can kind of just either, it will come off easily like that, or you'll have to scrape it off or sand it off depending on how stuck it is to your actual piece. And then once you scrape it off, it kind of looks like that. And this is your piece all printed out. And you also notice that in the middle here it still has some material, so you might have to get a tool in there and just kind of poke that support material out, so that you actually have a fully defined hole. That's basically it for this video. That kind of finishes the video series on 3D printers. Hope you enjoyed my teaching, and I'll see you in the lab. If you have any questions, please contact me. Again, my name is Miles Marcus. I am Dr. Arce's tech assistant in the lab. Take care.